Yeah, so the reason we want to do these mental health series is obviously in the music industry, a lot of people out there are doing every single thing they can to ruin their serotonin, and we need to do whatever we can to build it back up. So basically, did you want to introduce yourself, Brett, and tell us a bit about yourself first?
Yeah, so Brett Frenkiel's my name. I'm a sports medicine doctor. I work out of Epworth, Richmond, and Life Care Malvern Sports Medicine. I'm also one of the club doctors at St Kilda Footy Club, but not up in Queensland at the moment, obviously. And I guess basically met Christian through Instagram with my side hobby, which is DJing and just starting to get into music production. And when Christian mentioned that he was thinking about doing some mental health series, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to try and share my knowledge and expertise in exercise specifically. And in times like this with Corona and all the things going on, there's never really been a more important time to try and get the message out there and give some advice and of things everyone can do to stay on top of their mental health as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a couple of sessions and we've fixed up one of the tracks and we're releasing it on Disco Fiasco, and we're already on to track 2. So you'll have to check out Doc Beat and his music coming soon to Disco Fiasco, and we'll probably end up with a couple on Hot Sunday Records as well. Yeah, I was really, really excited when you said you wanted to have a chat to us. Obviously, I hadn't even known that about you. We'd already started working together, and when I learnt that, I just thought that's absolutely magic. I guess you're DJing and making music and that sort of stuff, and you're working as a sports scientist. So I guess like the balance there is kind of hard, right? Like we've got late nights and all that sort of thing. So you probably will be able to guide us a bit on what some really good balance is. We had a few points we wanted to chat about today. And so basically, if you want to explain some of the benefits of the exercise, and then also we were going to go through some sleep stuff too.
I think what's important before we get into that stuff is just to sort of put it out there, like what we're dealing with at the moment and why now more than ever is important to get on top of these things. So if you look at the stats at the moment in Australia, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health episode or disorder every year. So chances are you or someone you know, family, friends, is going through some really tough times or will go through some really tough times. And that was statistics pre-corona. If you now look at risk factors for depression specifically, but other mental health disorders, isolation, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, unemployment, stresses in life, no social connection. This is just like a perfect storm for developing some sort of mental health issue, whether it's acutely or chronic or making something that pre-existed worse. So it's a really serious situation, to be honest, like across the whole world, really. You heard of the Great Depression back in the 20s. We could very well go through another one because of all those factors. So that's why one of the main reasons I wanted to have this chat with you guys is to try and educate and see what things we can come up with to mitigate those risks.
Yeah, amazing. Do you feel like maybe there isn't enough being done at the moment and out there to sort of outweigh, I guess, the toll this is having? I guess we've got a lot of different things that are popping up for JobKeeper and all that sort of stuff, but, it's not really, it's talking about the financial situation, but it's not really talking about some of these other ones you brought up.
I think you're spot on. To be honest, I don't know what's being done in the background at a government level, but just as a civilian, I haven't seen any advertisements, any campaigns, anything saying look after your mental health, look after your friends' mental health, exercise, eat well, get sleep, those sort of things. Obviously, the government's got its priorities, but I think this is a huge priority. They've mentioned it in their talks. I've heard a few of ScoMo's and Andrew's is saying mental health is a thing, but I haven't come across any formal plan to the community of what to do.
I guess you talked about isolation and just being, I don't know, I guess environmentally as well, it's a big thing. I know when I was living in St Kilda, basically by myself, and then I ended up moving in with family, just being in a bit different environment and around other people, my mental health was so much better, so much more positive. and wanting to do things like what we're doing today rather than just wanting to play Zelda or something and eat shit food. Yeah, I guess let's talk a bit about the exercise and sleep and how we can sort of combat and fight against this sort of mental health kind of crisis we're going through.
So I guess there's how much exercise should we be doing and what type of exercise should we be doing. So the first point, how much. So as a minimum, all adults should be doing minimum 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week. And by moderate intensity, that means either a brisk walk or a light jog. So you should be able to, it's called the talk test. So if you can hold a conversation, that's okay, but you shouldn't be able to sing. So if you can sing, you're not working hard.
I'm actually banned from singing altogether anyway. So
and that's spread over the week. So 150 to 300 minutes. And so that's things, you could divide that up 30 minutes a day, do 3 10-minute walks to get a coffee or around the park. And that's the minimum. So that's aerobic or cardiovascular type exercise, which builds fitness. Then we should also be doing, to accompany that, 2 to 3 sessions a week of strengthening. It doesn't have to be hitting the gym trying to look like Arnie. It's just activating and working your major muscle groups. So your upper body, your lower body, and your core. And it can be simple things like resistance bands. You don't need equipment. You don't need anything fancy, squats, lunges, those sort of things. And then finally, the third part is balance, flexibility, stretching, control work. And I guess it's, to use an analogy like making a track, you need your mids, highs, and your lows to give the complete picture. So all those things is really important to have the balance, just as a minimum to stay healthy, I guess. And while we're on sort of staying healthy with exercise, if I told you that there was a magic pill, right, that could make you live longer, reduce your blood sugar, reduce your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol, reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke, improve your mood and well-being, reduce joint pain, lower your risk of getting cancer, lower your risk of type 2 diabetes, and improve your strength, balance, and endurance, and it was free. Would you
We're definitely not talking about white Mitsubishis here.
That's the beauty of exercise, is all those benefits, as well as for the mental health.
Yeah.
As just for general being, it's so important that all Australians get that minimum amount that we discussed.
Yeah, great. And I guess one big factor with DJing and is just like, if you've got 10 gigs over the weekend or you're traveling, you really, like, there could be 2 of the days of the week where you're only getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep each night, or maybe even less for some people, especially once things go back to normal and Chapel Street's back up and running. Some people might not see daylight for a couple of days. So if that is your lifestyle and you are going hard quite every weekend, Monday comes around and you've sleep deprived, you've got not much serotonin naturally coming anymore. What can people sort of do to help get that sort of back?
Yeah, so it's not something I've experienced, that sort of back-to-back sort of gigs and things.
Yeah,
I guess you're really limited in your opportunities for sleep over that period. That's unchangeable unless you turn down gigs, essentially, which no one wants to do. Napping, as simple as that sounds, is a really effective way to get some little doses of sleep in that hectic period if you can. I guess exercise itself is something that does promote and release serotonin, endorphins, other things, feelings of well-being. But what goes along with that is, I guess, minimizing the damage you do on the weekend. And that's with drugs, alcohol, anything like that. The less of that you can consume, obviously the fresher and the better your body's going to feel. And you've got to think of it as the big picture. I think people can only take so much of that, and in your downtime and when you're not performing or you're not having those hectic gigs back to back to back and things like that, is self-care, is devoting time to making yourself as well as you can, being kind and compassionate to yourself, eating well, sleeping well, because you can only control those periods of time where you have the opportunity to. The other stuff, it sounds like it's a non-negotiable. So it's just maximizing all the good things to balance out the more damaging things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
I guess, what else did you want to talk about? I guess ways. Did anyone have any questions at the moment before we crack on?
Happy to keep listening.
Happy to keep listening. Cool. I guess there's two schools of people: those who are regular exercisers and those who have never really done any formal exercise before. I guess the good news for the non-exercisers is that anything is better than nothing. So just moving. It's all about moving. Because there's good studies to show that for every 4 hours that you're sitting sedentary on the couch in front of a computer is as bad for your health as having a cigarette. So it's actually like being still and not moving. We're not designed for that as humans. You're not going to go back to the caveman days and one guy's going to go, no, I'm just going to go for a jog. I need to get my exercise in for the day. That's just, that's just ridiculous. We're not made to sit still. We're made to keep moving. And I guess a bonus of if you're out at your gigs and things, you're dancing. That's movement.
I cracked like 60,000 steps, I think, at pitch. That was in one day.
It's always good having the step counter there. Honestly, it's like just dancing is a really good form of movement.
Yeah.
But even if you don't have time to get out when you're preparing your sets, just have a little groove, have a little boogie to your own music. Like just getting movement in wherever you can is really important.
Yeah, awesome.
Back to the point about if you've never exercised before, a general rule is don't go from here straight up to here. So don't go from doing nothing to doing a whole bunch of new stuff that you've never done before. That's often when patients come to see me with injuries because of things like that. So it's all about really slow, progressive, gradual building of whatever it is, whether it's running, whether it's gym stuff, whether it's weights, whether it's CrossFit type things. So it's always about slow, gradual building. And a good sort of rule of thumb is 10% a week. So let's say you're running 3Ks 3 times a week, so 9Ks. So the next week you can do 3 runs of 3.3Ks and so on and so forth. So that's a really safe way to gradually build your loads.
Yeah. That's funny. I was listening to David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me at the start of lock-in and running. And I'm like, yep, I can do anything. And I ran half a marathon and I wasn't ready and I got shin splints and I was stuffed for the next month. Couldn't do any exercise for a month. So I'm definitely the type of person that goes from 0 to 100 and tries to do absolutely everything. But so that's good advice for me. Yeah, awesome. Really good stuff. I guess another thing I wanted to briefly touch on, which I think maybe people don't know, is just a little bit about myself and my thoughts on mental illness and just my battle with it, I guess you could say. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed bipolar type 2. And before going to a therapist and actually going to a doctor first and getting a referral to a psychiatrist and seeing a psychologist, I had no idea I even had a mental illness. And it wasn't until I found out what I had that I could start to sort of take the steps and the actions into getting these tips and tricks and these skills that I found that have helped me become really, really stable mood. And it's interesting, we talked about at the start about how Corona is, isolating people and how there's a financial trouble and there's just all these different things impacting at once. And yeah, I think just doing these Zooms as well is just great. And I think it's funny for me, the main thing that I found that helped me was sleep, getting 7 to 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
And once I was able to get that amount of sleep, I felt so much better. And one thing I actually did have to do was start to really organize my schedule around allowing myself to nap or sleep. If I was flying in and out, had studio sessions early morning on Saturdays, and sometimes I just had to say no to people. And I think that's something that we tend to just say yes to everything in the music industry. We do 10 gigs on the weekend. We have to kind of learn to say no to some things and really give ourselves that time to sleep, sleep in, or just kind of like allow our bodies to recover. Because yeah, it's kind of like, well, my question to my psychologist when I found out that I was bipolar was like, have I always been this way, or did this happen? Because, people can say it's partying, it's drugs, but then there's also people that suffer mental illnesses that don't party, have never listened to house music or taken a white Mitsubishi. So it can't just be drugs, can it? It has to be different things. And what she told me is it's just circumstantial. Some people are more susceptible to mental illness, but it's circumstantial. And obviously during coronavirus, those are the circumstances. It's a breeding ground for people to develop these mental illnesses. So yeah, I think it's great to have your advice on the exercise and the sleep. One thing I use to track my sleep is the Oura ring, which I'll chuck a link in the description. They're about $400. They're quite handy. It's just like a Bluetooth ring. It's got three little trackers that connect, get your heart rate. And there's a little app on your phone which it connects to, and it tells you how much you're sleeping, your heart rate during the night, and all that sort of stuff. So I know it actually tells me when I need to make up the lack of sleep. I find that really, really handy. And then another thing that helps me as well is my Apple Watch, which I have it set to 1,200 calories a day. I've got to do about 4 or 5 minutes of walking around every hour for 12 hours. And then there's the move one, which is the exercise one, which is half an hour a day. So those are two little devices, and just using technology to my advantage so that I know I can try and make the most out of my day to have a stable mood, I guess. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Hopefully that's not too much information. Did anyone have any questions at this point?
Yeah, I just was wondering, Brett, maybe you could give any advice on, I guess, the role of diet in all this. Like, does the food you eat affect your mental well-being?
Sorry, just cut out there.
Sorry. Just wondering if like the diet and what we eat and stuff is actually having an impact on our mental health at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. As far as I know, I haven't read any papers or heard of any studies that have linked diet exclusively with mental health. I know that people with low vitamin D potentially are more prone to mental health. So if you look at countries like Finland or even London, where they have these really long, dark winters, the prevalence of mental health issues is higher during those times in those populations. But as Christian said, it's a multifactorial thing. It's never just it's your diet or it's your sleep or there's a whole bunch of things. There's genetic component, there's external triggers, there's internal factors. So it's quite complex. But in terms of overall well-being, natural foods, vegetables, good carbohydrates, good fats, a well-balanced diet is the way to go. Plant-based diet is generally a very good, healthy diet, which is pretty hard to go wrong with, as long as you're making sure all your nutritional needs are met, that you get your iron from somewhere, you get your calcium from somewhere. And as long as you're getting all the macro and micronutrients you need, you're generally going to feel better. Staying away from heavy, oily, saturated fats, those sort of things, is the way to go.
So getting some sun as well, I guess. Like it's even at the moment, there's a couple of days a week where the sun's shining, and like I bought a exercise bike off Catch.com, and I just throw that in the sun and jump on that and do some like low impact cardio or something. I find that a good
sun's very important.
Another good audiobook or book is Own the Day by Aubrey Marcus. And he mentions in that book that he's got these little like AirPod things that actually they glow when the sun hits them, and it gets you vitamin D into your brain. I don't know how it works. I have to check it out. I haven't actually used them, but apparently they're really good for your mental health as well. I have to check them out.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good one. The Own the Day, Own Your Life by Aubrey Marcus. Maybe I'll put a little list of because I think he goes through basically like 7 or 8 different things that kind of help you own the day, but it really is just stuff that really gets you to a stable sort of mood. I think like, yeah, maybe I'll just throw some of those books into the description at the bottom, some links as well. I know a lot of people like to read. I like to listen to audiobooks. Sometimes I find they have some really good extra info, like bloggy types things as well, which can be really cool.
Yeah, cool. And we'll also put a few links of resources to reach out to if you're feeling down or sad or anything, like Beyond Blue and those sort of things. Headspace is a really good one for some wellness and mindfulness practices, which I've just seen they've put a sort of free little link for anyone that's unemployed at the moment to utilize, which is really great. So yeah, we'll make sure we put all those links and check on your mates, connect, stay in touch with your friends, your family, make sure everyone's okay, make sure you're okay. It's really important to stay connected during this time. It's like really, really critical.
Definitely. And I'll chuck your link in there to your site as well. Cool. And then you've got another Exercises Medicine Australia link we'll chuck in there. It's just like a bit more info.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other thing, Christian, is in terms of sleep. A lot of people have trouble falling asleep or getting to sleep. And the athletes that I work with in the professional setting, they, like everyone else, have trouble getting to sleep. A lot of anxieties about performance and, selection and things like that. And we go through, we're lucky enough down at the footy club at St Kilda, we've got a sleep specialist who really tracks and monitors all the things like you've got with your ring, Christian.
Yeah.
And then puts all these things in place. But just a few tips which people may or may not be aware of how to sort of wind down at the end of the day. Things like no screen time, meaning phones, TVs, computers, 2 hours before bed, no caffeine after sort of 1 p.m. Don't eat too close to bed, so try not to have a meal within 3 hours of bedtime. Make sure your room's nice and cool. Read a book rather than watch TV or something. And then just breathing practices and things like that are really useful as well. And don't be disheartened if you're not asleep straight away, because actually just resting in bed, winding down, just calming your mind is good rest as well. Even though it's not sleep, it's still better than being up and about and doing things. So it all counts. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
I was another good audiobook that I listened to as well, which should check out, guys. Why We Sleep. That's really interesting, and it does have the impact of people that sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, and how that affects your lifespan as well, and that sort of thing. So it is super important to obviously get 7-8 hours a night sleep. Otherwise, you might be living not as long. So your direct mental health it might affect, but it also could affect down the track as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on.
Cool. Yeah. Well, if there's any questions or anything like that, jump in now, guys. If not, unless there was anything else you'd like to chat about, anyone want to open mic night? Give us what you got. Anyone out there?
Hey, we're here.
Hello.
Yay! Thanks for joining.
I read something once before that said that creative people and artists are generally more prone to mental illness, and the studies didn't know whether that was because people that are mentally ill are more attracted to that sort of industry, or if it's the industry or being an artist that creates that sort of uneasiness and predisposition towards mental illness. Like, do you have any thoughts about that? Do you find that artists and creative people are generally more prone to, mental illness and anxiety and depression and that sort of thing?
That's a really interesting thing that you've read and a possible link. I'm not a mental health practitioner, so I don't deal with mental health all the time. I'm more a sports physician. So that's not my area of expertise. So I don't know is the answer.
I've got the answer. It's yes. I've seen you all out on weekends, and it's true.
We're all crazy.
But I guess the answer is it's so prevalent in society, and there's no profession, there's no group of people that it doesn't affect. It doesn't matter if you're the richest of richest, the poorest of poorest, if you're lawyers, you're artists, you're music. It's prevalent everywhere, and it's really important that everyone does as much as they can to take care of themselves, especially during these times.
Okay, cool. We've got a question. Yeah, cool. Yep, I'll chuck all the links, just basically links to everything. Also, another good link I'll chuck in there, which was a Russell Brand YouTube thing. And I think he was just sort of talking about a book that he read, but it was basically, once people make, say, $75,000 a year, every dollar you make over that doesn't make you happier. It doesn't make you more fulfilled. And I think what he said is like charity work and giving back. So after today, Brett, with this chat, you'll be feeling good for the rest of the week. But yeah, basically doing something for people without anything, thinking about yourself and doing some sort of, giving charity is actually boosts people's morale, makes them feel more fulfilled, and they end up with a better and more stable mood, a better mental health than being a millionaire. So I think that's something really to consider is just, trying to do something for other people.
Absolutely. That's a really, really good point you raised. We went and saw last year this guy, it's called the Resilience Project. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it or seen it. He's an Aussie guy, Hugh Van something or other. And he basically he spent some time abroad in Nepal or somewhere, or India, like a really remote, poor society that literally had nothing. They just had the clothes on their back, lived in, you couldn't even call it a house, just a shelter essentially. And these kids were just so happy. They had literally nothing. And the whole thing he comes back to is gratitude, just being grateful as much as you can for what you do have and the simple things in life. And that, I'd heard that $70,000 or something, anything above that is...
Yeah.
Although
I'd love to have more money.
and one of the things he says is, if you're feeling exactly what you said, if you're feeling down or flat, the 3 best things you can do to just temporarily boost your mood is 1, exercise, 2, play music or listen to music, and 3, do something nice for someone else. So a selfless act. A really good acute way is just to make yourself feel better. So I think that's a really good point you made, Christian.
Oh, that's really good 3 points, actually. That's perfect. I think we all probably listen or make music for most of the day, so we've got that covered. Definitely. Oh, beautiful. Awesome. We'll chuck all the links in the description. Anyone else got any questions?
Yeah, I've got
Want to share an experience? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've struggled with mental illness like my whole life. And right now, because there's no dancing on the weekends, I'm finding it really hard to even like want to exercise or to even get going. How can I like kick myself to like, you say like half an hour, but like getting out to even do that half an hour is really hard at the moment. Is there any like thing to help really like
Motivation.
Yeah, I guess like what exercise do you like to do?
I hate it all, really.
And dancing is exercise.
Yeah, I love dancing.
Put some tunes on and have a book. Like honestly, that's moving. That's exercise. Putting some tunes on, having a boogie with your friends at home. I'm speaking from personal experience of things that motivate me to exercise. Is I'm much more likely to exercise if there's someone else to do it with.
Yeah, I'm the same.
A friend or someone to drag me along and say, let's do this. That's far more likely. If it's something I really enjoy. So like obviously now it's not possible, but soccer is my thing when that's up and running. I love playing soccer. Other things is, I think finding little. You find once you do it, the thought of doing it's the hardest. And unfortunately, the word exercise people associate with like a task, like a chore, like I have to do it. It's not about. It's just about moving.
Okay.
Just about getting moving in any way. Doesn't matter where. Doesn't matter how. It's all about moving your body, not being sedentary, and that's the key. Because we're not designed to just sit still. So I think just once you just do even just a 5-minute walk, like anything, something is better than nothing. So even if you're not doing a half an hour,
get a pet.
We have 4 cats, and they don't like.
You can't walk a cat.
We've tried.
We've tried, but they don't
Yes, you
like
can.
walking.
Yes, you can.
They get distracted by everything else on the walk. They're worse than dogs.
But yeah, like just get it anywhere you can, and so any little bit is better than doing nothing. So even if you're not doing a half an hour, don't be disheartened. It's still better. It's still good. So I think all those little tips and tricks I think are worth trying. But if you love dancing, put on some tunes and go nuts.
Put on some bangers. If you're into technology and you've got a phone, which you probably do, I found this Streaks app really good. It's just like an app on the iPhone, and the 2-minute rule, which is basically what you said, is you just try and do something for 2 minutes, not any longer. And sometimes you find that once you've just done it for 2 minutes, you end up doing it for an hour or half an hour. But I think like scheduling maybe the same time every day and just going, I'm going to do it for 2 minutes. I don't care if I only do it for 2 minutes, as long as I'm doing it for 2 minutes. And doing it at the same time every day, I found that like I play the bass guitar at the same time every day. I ride my indoor bike at the same time every day. And no matter what, I always do it for 2 minutes. And now when 10 a.m. rolls by, I'm like, okay, cool. I know I'm going to get my exercise bike. It starts to get ingrained. I think like we've got the time to have a bit of a structure now. So that kind of like 2-minute rule with like maybe a little bit of technology to help you remember to do it. Cause I know like, we've got so much going on, we forget to do things, and just that sort of structure could help. Hopefully, I don't know. It's helping me, so that's why I suggest it.
I've got one thing to say, if you don't mind, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
I personally generally work a full-time job, plus do music. I've done touring and everything. I'm sitting on my ass a lot because I'm either in front of my computer at work, I'm in front of my computer at home, writing, producing music, or I'm at gigs doing stuff. Big thing for me that I find, because I've been doing this 25 years, is to try and eat in between to graze. If instead of having coffee and Red Bull, maybe have a banana, stuff like that. There are certain fruits that actually raise your sugar, but in a good way. So you're not here and then you drop, and that does help with your mental stability. So I work in finance, so I concentrate a lot all day. And what I need to do is keep myself alert, but in that good frame of mind, because I've got to be able to keep doing things over many hours and stuff like that. And like you've been saying about walks and stuff like that, walking from the station to your house or something like that, that's just trying to get steps up during the day. That kind of helps as well.
Yeah, definitely.
General sense, I find, because I get home and at the end of the day, I crash and burn and I try and sleep like we all do. But like doing 4 or 5 gigs on a weekend and then having to do work again on the Monday, there's no chance to have a day off. It's regulating things with my diet, my sleep, and just trying to do things in a way that basically allows me to keep going is really important.
Yeah, 100%. And you feel good with that sort of routine? Yeah.
Like I'm getting older now too, so like you say, sometimes you've got to say no to things.
Yeah.
You can't take everything on, and you just got to go, well, actually, do I want to do something? Is it actually going to be good for me, or am I doing it just for the sake of it? So that helps with your mental health as well, because if you're feeling overwhelmed, like if I get asked to do 5 gigs, I've either got to write or learn music for, and it's like shit.
I think that's one of the biggest things for people in our industry is learning to say no to things, and people as well. But people also need to, on the receiving end of that, need to understand that if you say, hey, look, no, I can't do this. I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to cancel, or we're going to have to postpone because I'm not going to be able to get enough sleep. And if I'm not getting enough sleep, it's going to affect my mental health negatively. The people that are on the other end and hearing that need to go, okay, well, that's fair enough. We'll find a replacement, or we'll just catch up the next week, because at the end of the day, the most important thing moving forward is that everyone takes each other's mental health into respectively, and does, you know, I guess now we have like mental health days at work and all that sort of stuff, and you probably wouldn't have had that 20, 30 years ago. And it's kind of like having a sickie, because it is as important as being sick or something like that. So I think, yeah, we've got to really put that work in. And I guess just it all starts with chatting about it, like what we're doing here. And I guess if anyone is watching this and they are feeling like they need to chat to someone, see your GP. And if you've got Medicare, you can get 10 passes per year to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And it's like 50% off or something like that. And, you know, you might start with 1 or 2 a week, and it might end up going down to 1 a year or 0. But I think just that first step and reaching out for help is a big thing, that's for sure. Yeah, I personally as well, I think like use technology to your advantage. Like that's the best thing. Like you said, walking to the station and getting those steps, and just sacrificing maybe driving for walking. Or I saw on Facebook a friend in Sydney started riding his bicycle to work every day rather than driving his car, and he like lost 30 kilos. And it's just like that little change. Yeah, it might suck at the start, but he looks fantastic. So it's being smart, and I don't know, setting small goals, I guess, would be another really good thing as well. Like you said, maybe that extra 10% a week, Brett, start off small and add 10% a week.
Just slowly build.
Have a 6 to 12 month sort of goal and that sort of thing.
I just remember the other big motivator is if you're training for something specific, you're more likely to do exercise. So I know, are you training for a marathon, Christian?
Yeah, it keeps getting pushed back, which is great. I can get better and better, and I'll actually be good at it by the time it happens in 2023.
That having a goal, whether it's small goals or big goals, big goal with small goals along the way, like with anything in life, if you've got something you're aiming towards, you're far more likely to get there rather than just going blindly just because I got to do it.
Yeah. I reckon one nice note to leave us on, unless anyone else has any questions. I remember specifically when I was speaking to my psychologist, and I said, my goal is to be happy every day. And he said, why don't, instead of trying to be happy every day, just trying to make each day fulfilled, and plotting and planning things each day that will make you feel fulfilled. And he said, happiness will follow after that. And I have been doing that, and I have found it really does work. So that could be something. Okay. A nice little perspective. Oh, I got another question. Any certain types of exercise, intensity levels, lengths of sessions at times of day, on times of day that are best for sleep? So I guess you probably don't want to be lifting weights right before bed.
No, is the short answer. So obviously, was the question the best time of day to sleep or best time of day?
So are there certain types of exercises, intensity levels, lengths of sessions, or times of day for exercising that will work best for sleep? Times of exercise, yeah.
Gotcha. So best not to exercise straight before bed, because you get that rush of endorphins, the serotonin, it gives you a little buzz, and you often feel really high after it, after you've done a decent workout. So best to do that not before bed. I guess if you're really stuck for time in terms of your work all day and your only opportunity is to do some exercise, probably best to do something than nothing, but maybe not that really high intensity, high heart rate type exercise. And to go back to the type of exercise question, so as long as you're getting those 3 things in over the week, so your aerobic, which is your 150 to 300 minutes of some sort of cardio, whether it's walking or light jog or anything, some strengthening and some balance and control work. The intensity will depend obviously on what you've done up till this point. If you've never done exercise before, I wouldn't go straight to intense exercise. I think it's really important to build a foundation. So it's going to vary from individual to individual. But if you are at the intense type exercise level, and that's one where you can't really hold a conversation, so that's the sort of intensity you're at, you're huffing and puffing, you can't, no time for talking, you only need to do 75 minutes to 150 minutes of that a week. So you can either do the 150 to 300 of lower intensity, or half of that if it's higher intensity. So if you're time poor and you're up to that high intensity level, you can substitute that for the long sort of walks and things.
Yeah, cool. And obviously, like, oh yeah, cool. That answers it. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing as well, guys, and thanks for asking questions and getting involved. Really appreciate it. Hopefully the information today has helped you guys. I'll chuck this up on YouTube tomorrow, and all of the links mentioned will be in the description. Thanks again for joining us and giving us that insight. I think it's really important to spread this message of how we need to take care of ourselves. And like you said at the start, it's perfect. This is such a tough time, so keep in touch. And if anyone wants to message either of us, we'll have links up and all that sort of stuff. So you're more than welcome to. All right. Anyone last questions? Or we're good to go? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for being, guys. Thanks for having me, Christian.
Hey, guys. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Make sure you do hit subscribe and turn the notifications on, so you're going to get notified every time we upload a video. We're doing a minimum of 2 a week, sometimes 3, covering all bases in the industry, from mental health, production tips, interviewing, DJs. We're going to go deep, 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 covering all bases, get you all the information you need. Hopefully some of it is useful and there's not too much of me talking shit.